But to answer your question, the crypto for any country's currencies to get internationalized, internationally expected.
I think this perspective needs to change, means we give this onus over the government. I mean, this India has to become and what government is doing. But
yes,
individually we need to think what we are contributing.
Absolutely.
Right.
Our groups, our society.
Yes, sir.
Government is a sort of construct or the child of society. Government is not the master of society.
Exactly. Right? And this shift needs to come. I think, do you think India being a post-colonial state has something to do that we constantly look towards the government for anything which we want?
Unfortunately, since we adopted that socialist pattern of society and which virtually made, we discussed a little while earlier, that so much of production of goods and services also came into the government sector, the public sector and all, and government became so all-encompassing, all-pervasive, that it looked like that the life is impossible without government. But that's not true. The government has a role to play, and there is much larger aspect of life where the government should not have any role to play. We'll need to correct this as time goes along.
So another highlight is that people are waiting what is going to happen with future of crypto in India.
Yes.
So what are your views on this?
I don't know whether you are aware, so I was the chairperson of the committee which gave that report in 2019 and also recommended the law, that draft. That is the only draft, by the way, so far which is available in the public domain. The government has said they would revise and reintroduce something, but government has so far no. But to answer your question, the crypto, first let us believe that the cryptography and the blockchain technology is the new technology on which enormous kind of currencies, businesses, assets and other services can be delivered. So it's a new kind of digital economy or digital technology which has come up.
Yes, sir.
Right. So and with enormous potential. Yes. It's a very different the way we used to organize. Today we have centralized database technology working all over. So whether our banks or our land records or our government records, there is a central entity which collects the data, which manages it and gives you access. That's the central database technology, right? So whether your shares, bonds, banks, everything is centralized. Whereas this is completely decentralized. There is no central authority, right? So it's a very different kind of technology which will do a very different. And this is enormous potential, right? It's growing. It will become more and more efficient and more useful. So we should have, number one, we should have a very, very open, positive view about this technology. And the other thing which I think we must remember, this is a very different kind of thing. Here the capital, the services, the currency is all mashed into one thing, right? It's very different.
Yeah, most people sir have this, this thing in mind that crypto means just currency. But yeah, it is more than that. It includes trade, services, assets, NFTs. Yeah.
Currencies, what has now becoming more and more clear that it's not only general purpose currency like rupee or dollar, but it is also a stable coin for international transfers, right? It's also the currency for the platform. So Ethereum or something will work only on that currency. They don't use external currency. So it's a evolution of the concept of currency itself, right? So even in terms of currency, we would have to recognize a very different role. So I think going forward, I keep on saying this, is that there are 5 key aspects of this new world which we should recognize. One as a currency, another one as a business. So you do apps, you do decentralized finance and many other things. The third aspect is the asset aspect, the NFTs and many other assets, and the platform itself as the asset. Then there are two more aspects. It's a very different kind of organization. Like unlike we know the companies and other formats, it's a decentralized autonomous organization. Machines are running entire system. There are no human beings intervening at any stage. So this organization will have to be conceptualized, thought through, and given a legal shape in times to come. Like we gave the legal shape to companies. So you have to give the legal shape to decentralized organization, fix responsibilities and other things. And lastly, the fifth thing is the mode of its working is very different. Smart contracts.
Exactly.
It all self-executing autonomous kind of contracts.
Cost of transfers would actually significantly reduce.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Unlike, so we have traditional concept of contracts, the Indian Contract Act, Sale of Goods Act, etc., etc. All these need to be changed. So I think in times to come, we'll have to figure out all these 5 aspects very well, and create the legal, social, financial, governmental arrangement, regulatory arrangement for the future.
And that is why you are called revolutionary in finance field. So you think it's an idea whose time has come?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
it's there.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah, it's no longer an idea.
Yeah,
It's actually
execution is happening. Yeah. So I remember in 2015-16, one of my student from my class came up, and in the end of the class he was saying, "Sir, I'm investing in Bitcoin. So there's a new thing." So I was teaching about crypto at that point of time. It's a new concept. So he said, "Sir, why don't you invest?" So at that point of time, I read that Mr. Shaktikant Das was appointed as a chairman of one committee, and that committee said, "No, this is going to be blunder and it can bring shock."
It's a different aspect. Today we don't know how to value cryptocurrency and crypto assets. And the way the technology works, the intrinsic value is very difficult to determine. So today people are taking virtually blind calls about and if the demand supply situation is where there is more demand, the prices will go up. If the demand falls, but what is the true worth of a Bitcoin? What is the true value of a Ethereum or a Ripple or any other currency? You don't know. And therefore, we will have to evolve the methodologies, the methods to ascertain the real value.
So when you are saying real value, are you actually pointing towards cryptos backed by something?
No, that is the stable coin kind of thing. If you can back by reserves, etc., then that's good enough. That the value is as good as that. So like USDT, etc.
Exactly.
They have the value equivalent to, let us say, so it's one-to-one relationship,
but
and they assure you that we have equal amount of dollars in our reserves.
Yeah.
Right? So that's not the.
Yes.
But the, let us say, Ethereum.
Yeah.
So what is the value of the Ether? How do we know? It does a lot of business today, right? But that business translates into the value of Ether. We don't know.
No, we don't know.
Right. So we have a traditional way of valuing things, decentralized, discounting method, etc., etc. But for this world, none of those apply.
Exactly.
Right. So there is no profitability, there is no sort of net worth, there is nothing. So how do you understand the value? So this being a different kind of world, we'll have to evolve. So to come back to your observation that somebody asked you to invest,
I did not invest.
You didn't invest. I have also not invested because I don't trust the intrinsic value of the. I find this extremely valuable, but how valuable it is, I don't know.
Exactly.
And therefore, I think we will have to evolve methodologies and the methods to find more objective valuation.
Second is the CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency. So it's a lot of hype about this, and especially after Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman actually pointed there's something happening. So what's your view on this?
See, currency or money, as we know, money's main function is the exchange or making payments. Exchange takes place by payments, right? So you buy something, you pay, you sell something, you receive money. So money is in today's world basically two types. One is what we know as currency. So the banknotes in your pocket is the currency, or the coins you have is the currency. This is the physical cash,
Yes.
which is used for all kinds of transactions. You buy fruits, or you buy anything, you use that, right? So that is the currency. There is another form of money which you may not consciously recognize. Your money in your bank account, your deposit in your bank account also works as money.
Exactly, sir.
And in fact, today you're making most of your payments by using that money in the bank account. Whether you use UPI, or you do credit card, or you do debit card payments, etc. Basically, you're using IMPS, etc., etc. You're basically using the money in your bank account. So what we call is the account money, right? So there are two money: your cash currency and your account money, right? The digital payments today are or have expanded enormously, basically using your bank or account money. Today, in terms of value, roughly about 90-95% of the payments are made by using the bank money. Now imagine the next stage of evolution where your cash also become digital.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
So instead of you keeping banknotes in your pocket, you keep your cash in a digital wallet,
Yeah.
which can be on your phone or anywhere else. So if this cash currency transforms into digital currency, that is the CBDC.
Okay.
So that is a digital rupee.
Exactly.
That is the central bank. World has started calling it central bank. Basically, it's a sovereign currency. The sovereign issues the currency. So CBDC is like, instead your physical rupee note, your digital rupee notes. If the Reserve Bank of India, and that's what in the recent budget the government has amended the RBI Act to allow the RBI to issue digital rupee. That is the CBDC for you. But remember, its use is also for payments. And a lot of payments have already shifted to digital side by the use of bank account money.
Yes, sir.
So it's not going to cover a very large swath of payments. In fact, this would be quite challenging because the cash is used by more the poorer people, the rural people for small payments, etc. For them to switch over to digital payments by using digital rupee will be challenging. So it's not going to happen in a day or two. It might happen over a period of time. But time has come for shifting the physical rupee to digital rupee.
Okay. Okay, great, sir. So Indian payment, there's a Visa, MasterCard, we have RuPay. So still when it comes to acceptability at international level, we are far behind. A lot of work needs to be done. So when you go to Maldives, so you will find Union Pay,
Right.
So these kind of things are there. But when it comes to Indian systems, means RuPay, that's not accepted there. So what needs to be done? Do you think this practical, we can see, this thing can be done, and in this period of time, we can achieve that, because it also signifies the strength of that nation. I think you would agree or disagree.
So there are aspects to it. For any country's currencies to get internationalized, internationally accepted. You mentioned about Union Pay, which is basically Chinese card. You mentioned about Visa and MasterCard. Those are basically US kind of thing. And all those currencies are international currency. So dollar is the international currency, right? So dollar is accepted anywhere, everywhere you go, right? And that is why it's so easy to use MasterCard and the Visa. But rupee is not convertible. Rupee is not acceptable outside India, except Singapore or somewhere in 2 or 3 other countries where we have got an agreement and rupee card is now getting acceptable. So first thing, for making it internationally acceptable is to make, and we may not be ready for that, to make the Indian rupee convertible, right, and acceptable outside India. So that's one. The second one is the technical requirement. All these card systems require an enormous amount of infrastructure, digital infrastructure to be created. Today when you use a card, the moment you use it, it goes into the database, they check it, that whether it's a legitimate use, illegitimate use, you have exceeded your limits or things or not,
Yes, sir.
and instantly they clear, then your payment goes through, the transaction is over. That kind of infrastructure we have not built for Rupee. Our infrastructure is only in India. So in India you might use, but elsewhere it is not. And therefore, until we do two things, make the rupee internationally acceptable, and second, the infrastructure to, by the way, India tried to use a American card, I think DVS or DFS, to take the rupee internationally, but then that's sharing somebody else's platform.
What needs to be done for the first point, making Indian rupee convertible?
Yes, that is the necessity, but as I said, that's a very different question whether our policy makers are ready for making international rupee international, because that would mean that Indians can take their sort of deposits, their money outside as well, and outside can bring in. And if you perceive that more people will take money outside, then there may be different economic consequences.
Way that Tarapur committee recommended for changing in this capital account convertibility.
Yes, that they gave out a phased path, and that's also now about 30 years old. But the Indian policymakers are not still ready for that. I don't think we are fully ready for this at this stage, but we can, and we need to take a lot of steps. I think time has come where India should have a, Tarapur suggested a path. I think we can also have a faster or shorter path of 3 to 4 years to make Indian rupee virtually convertible.
Do you think currency swap agreements can be a step forward?
See, currency swap agreements are basically to forestall a situation. There are two types. One is the trade types, but that's not what normally are referred to. The second one is the fallback options. Like we had one with Japan, which I negotiated, right? So that is that in case we need, Japan will give us $75 billion equivalent of dollars, right? Japan is not a dollar currency, but they will give us dollars to use. There are certain conditions, etc., etc. Those are all there, but these swap arrangements are more like backstop arrangements. That if you have a difficulty in foreign exchange, you can fall back on this arrangement to get temporary liquidity for some time.
So next question is connected to your book as well. So the Indian economy's performance is a topic of constant debate. Do you think that post-pandemic India, with the current set of reforms that have been announced, is on track to become first a $5 trillion economy and then $10 trillion economy in next 10 years? So what are the biggest...
Unfortunately, have been very poor. One largely because of the decision taken when the pandemic hit us. So we literally closed India at that time for about 2 months. That hit the economy very hard. So in 2021 we actually contracted by 6.5% rather than growing. So in 3 years we have grown only about 1.7%. On an average, whereas we should be growing 8 to 9% every year. So the goal of 24-25 of $5 trillion is not achievable any longer.
Is not achievable.
So in the book also I try to argue that the earliest we can aim for it now is 26-27. So 2 years we'll have to extend this particular goal. About your comment on the current set of reforms, there is a little bit of uncertainty which is prevalent because some of the reforms which were initiated have been taken back. For example, this farm laws kind of thing. Some of those things which have been announced have not progressed very fast. For example, the bank privatization and things like that, they have not progressed as fast as they should. So my sense is that these reforms need to be expedited, taken faster, and we need many more to be able to achieve 5 trillion by 26-27, and the 10 trillion by, let's say, 2035.
Okay, but if we just check out the economic growth rate before pandemic hit, so we were on decline also at that point.
Yes, that's correct. So after 2016-17, every quarter we were actually declining, and 19-20, which is the last pre-pandemic year, we grew only by less than 4%.
Yeah.
So this tells you that the reforms which were unleashed in 1991, they have run their course. Now we need another set of reforms to actually go ahead and do it. So that's why when you asked me, so I commented that the current set of reforms will not take you to 5 or 10 trillions. You will need something much bigger.
Okay, sir. Now, sir, this is the last question of our interview. In a recent newspaper column, one of your predecessor, former RBI Governor D. Subbarao,
Yes.
has attacked the Indian Administrative Services, saying it has failed the nation. You spent close to 4 decades in various parts of bureaucracy. Would you agree with Mr. D. Subbarao's assessment?
Subbarao is a very honorable, genuine person. So whatever he must have said, he has said from his heart. He must be believing it. So that's one comment I have. But I have serious differences with his thesis.
Okay.
I don't think IAS is a system, or IAS is a profession, right? And IAS can fail or make. IAS is a very important institutional cog in the policy and the program set of the country. So if the country fails, IAS may have part of the blame, but it can't be the sole response. It doesn't run the system, right? So we should be a little more humble. Second, we have discussed this. The entire milieu, the environment, the challenges, the responsibilities of the IAS keeps on changing because the larger policy framework keeps on changing. So there is nothing which is ever relevant except that integrationist aspect which I talked about, what the IAS does. So when he concludes that his generation has failed, the current generation, I don't think he should be so apologetic about it.
Okay. Thanks for your comments, sir. So it was wonderful having you in this show. Thanks for contributing. It is going to provide immense value to the aspirants who are preparing or who are going to prepare. Thank you, sir, once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure talking to you.
Thank
I
you,
hope
sir.
this turns out to be something useful for people.
Definitely, sir. Thank you.
Thanks.